You checked your expression in the rearview mirror, made sure it looked right, then walked inside to let people celebrate you. And you stood there, drink in hand, saying the right things, and felt almost nothing. Not sadness, not gratitude, not relief, just a quiet, unsettling blankness where the feeling was supposed to be. You had worked for this. You knew that. The evidence was all around you. People who were genuinely happy for you, a moment that was objectively good, and your brain did not respond the way you had spent years imagining it would. If you have ever performed happiness at your own success, what happened in that parking lot has a name, and it started long before you ever had anything worth celebrating. Most people assume this is ingratitude, that if you just stopped, looked around, and counted what you had built, the feeling would finally come. So they try that. They make the list. They say the words out loud. They look at the evidence of their own life and try to feel it the way they know they should. And the blankness stays, because this is not a gratitude problem. This is the brain's documented failure to feel what it spent years promising itself it would feel. Harvard lecturer Tal Ben-Shahar spent his career studying happiness and achievement. What he found was not what anyone wanted to hear. He called it the arrival fallacy. The arrival fallacy is the gap between the feeling you predicted success would produce and the feeling that actually arrives when it does. You spent years running on the fuel of imagined arrival, the promotion, the number, the moment. When the moment came, your brain had already normalized it before you finished shaking the hand. Not because you are broken, because this is what brains do. But for some people, specifically people who grew up without expecting success to find them, the gap is not just shorter than predicted, it is almost completely empty, and that requires a different explanation entirely. In 2006, Harvard psychologist Daniel Gilbert published findings that changed how scientists understand happiness. He studied affective forecasting, the brain's ability to predict how future events will make us feel. The finding was precise. People are not slightly wrong about how happy their achievements will make them. They are significantly wrong every time. The brain spends years imagining the feeling of arrival. The actual arrival produces a fraction of that feeling and fades faster than predicted. For most people, this is a disappointment. For people who grew up without the expectation of success, it is something more specific. The feeling does not just fade faster than predicted, it barely registers at all, because Gilbert's research explains the fallacy, but it does not explain the identity dimension underneath it. In 1978, psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes at Georgia State University studied something they had observed in high-achieving professional women, a persistent internal experience of feeling fundamentally undeserving of success, despite clear external evidence of it. Subsequent research confirmed the same pattern across genders and backgrounds, but the people who experienced it most intensely shared one specific thing. They had not grown up with a picture of themselves in the rooms they eventually entered. Here's the mechanism that nobody explains clearly. Long before you had a salary, before you had a title or a room that felt like it was meant for you, your brain built something. Psychologists call it a self-concept, a quiet internal picture of who you are, what you deserve, and what kind of life belongs to people like you. Your self-concept was not built from what you were told. It was built from what you observed. The people who had the things, the people at the table, the people whose names were said with a certain kind of weight, and your brain registered, quietly, without words, before you were old enough to question it, which category it was placing you in. Identity dissonance is what happens when your external life moves faster than your internal self-concept. The promotion arrived, the bank account updated, the title changed, but the internal picture, the one that was built in that childhood home before you had any say in the matter, did not receive the update. So when success arrives, the brain experiences a specific friction. This is real. I built this, but some part of me is waiting to be told I have the wrong room. This is not imposter syndrome in the surface level way the internet uses the word. This is something more structural. Your self-concept was formed in an environment where success was not written into the picture of who you were going to become. Not because anyone told you this directly, because you were a precise observer of the world around you before you were old enough to argue with what you saw. The success arrived. The self-concept is still catching up. And here is what that gap produces in real life. You finish something significant, a goal you carried for years, something real. And within hours, sometimes within minutes, your brain is already scanning for the next problem. Not because you are ambitious, because staying in the moment of completion feels genuinely unsafe, like stillness is the moment they realize you were never supposed to be here. The hypervigilance that built the achievement is the exact same hypervigilance that cannot let you rest inside it.
Someone congratulates you, genuinely, without agenda, and you hear yourself say, "I just got lucky. The timing helped. The team carried most of it." You are not being modest. You are running a calculation so fast you don't even notice it. If I let this land, if I fully accept that I earned this, and then something exposes that I was wrong, the fall will be worse than if I never believed it in the first place. Deflection is not humility. It is protection. Something genuinely good happens, objectively, measurably good, and underneath the relief, almost immediately, a quiet dread appears. The good thing feels like a debt. A calculation somewhere is running that says this much good means this much bad is coming to balance it. You were raised in an environment where good things did not arrive without a cost attached. Your nervous system learned to wait for the invoice. The invoice stopped arriving, the waiting did not. Every piece of advice about this gets it wrong in the same direction. Practice gratitude, celebrate your wins, be present, stop minimizing what you've built, as if the self-concept that spent 20 years forming in a specific environment will update itself because you bought a journal. It will not, because what you are carrying is not ingratitude. It's an internal picture of yourself that has not yet caught up to a life that moved faster than it expected. And here's the thing most people never hear.
The brain that cannot rest in success, that deflects the congratulations, moves to the next target, waits for the good thing to be taken away, that brain is the exact same brain that drove you to achieve something worth celebrating in the first place. You did not get one without the other. The inability to land and the drive that got you here are the same thing. Understanding that does not fix it overnight, but it ends the war you have been having with yourself about why you cannot just feel what you worked for. You are not someone who cannot feel success. You are someone whose brain built its picture of the future from the materials it had, and those materials did not include a detailed image of you, specifically exactly you, in a room full of people celebrating something you built with your own hands. The arrival fallacy is real for everyone. You got the full version. The fallacy, plus the identity gap, plus a self-concept that is still receiving an update it was never prepared for. That brain is not broken. It is still catching up to a life it never fully saw coming. And the fact that you can see the gap now, that you have language for the distance between who your self-concept thinks you are and where your life has actually arrived, means the update has already begun. If this gave you words for something you have been carrying quietly, send it to the person you thought of while you were watching. They need to hear this. And if this channel matters to you, honest psychology, real research, no recycled advice, subscribe, because every week we go one layer deeper into the experiences most content refuses to name. Next week, the one that is even harder to say out loud, the psychology of people who feel guilty for succeeding when the people they love did not. We'll see you there.